My name is Hilary Stabler, and I am the female protagonist of a book titled Cruel Love. In this book, my love-obsessed mother, after my father's death, fell in love with an ordinary man who runs a noodle restaurant. My mother bought a house and a car for this man. Ding! Wisnovel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. Instead of being grateful, this man secretly imprisoned me, treated me as a sex slave, played with me, and humiliated me. In the end, he even killed my mother. After my boyfriend found out about this, he came to me. At the moment I saw him in the villa, I thought he was my redemption. Little did I know, he had made a deal with this man behind my back, planning to possess me together. When I was reborn and realized that the world I was in was a novel, I felt very lucky. Fortunately, these three people are just creations of others. Such disgusting character settings and plots, if they were to happen in real life, would be truly unacceptable. The timing of my rebirth is a bit awkward, right at the wedding ceremony of my love-obsessed mother Kelly Patton and the malicious stepfather Dustin Walpole. When I looked at that man's face again, I could hardly control my emotions. Recalling the latter part of my last life being chained, I really wanted to stab this man to death. But I knew it was not the right time yet. No matter what I say, my love-obsessed mother who has gone crazy won't believe me. And I don't want to waste my prime years in prison. I want them to kill each other and not end well. Before I could calm down, Dustin Walpole suddenly sat beside me, warmly embracing my shoulders. I could feel the rough palms of a man discreetly kneading my shoulders in a place where others couldn't see. Suppressing my emotions, I looked up at the man and smiled brightly. Dustin. Perhaps because I hadn't been giving him a good attitude these days, just as I suddenly smiled, I saw his body stiffen, his breathing becoming heavy. At the same time, his hand slowly slid down from my shoulder to my waist. His fingers teasingly caressed my waist, hinting at me. The flames in the man's eyes almost seemed to burn off my clothes. But we were at a wedding ceremony now. Even though our location was in a secluded corner, there were still many people around. When he heard my mother calling his name, the man's emotions peaked. He covered his hand up with the table, rubbing my thigh heavily, then gasping for breath as he left. After he left, my body instantly went weak, feeling a surge of moisture below. As the female protagonist of an erotic novel, everything about me seemed to be prepared for men. With a curvaceous figure and a sweet, cute face, I exuded a great contrast. Whenever a man approached me, my body would involuntarily go weak. In my past life, I detested this body of mine. But now, I understand that it can help me escape from this misery. Looking at the man beside my mother, I secretly made up my mind. I am not a conservative girl, and I can do anything to leave this damn place. I know Dustin Walpole likes me looking shy but helpless. After all, in my past life, when he forced himself on me, he seemed particularly excited in both expression and other aspects. Looking at the gorgeously decorated villa, a sense of suffocation surged in my heart. This place, envied by others, trapped me for a lifetime in my past life. This kind of feeling comes quickly and disappears quickly. When I opened my eyes again, I had turned into a sweet and timid little girl. According to my memories from my past life, Dustin would definitely sneak into my room at night. Looking at the dark sky outside, I was wearing pajamas, standing in front of the mirror, admiring my body. The material of the pajamas was not thick cotton, but when worn, it revealed a sensual gauze texture. Looking at the clock on the wall, I ran my fingers through my hair, then applied a delicate no-makeup makeup. After that, I pretended to kick the blanket, deliberately exposing a few parts of my body. As the clock's hands pointed to 10, there was a faint creak at my bedroom door. It was a very slight sound, followed by the heavy breathing of a man. Usually, people say that when you close your eyes, your ears become especially sensitive. I didn't believe it before, but today I saw that it was true. There was a distance between my bed and the door, and I could clearly hear the man's footsteps and his panting as he approached me. As expected, just as I thought, the bed then made a creaking sound. The heat from the man's breath hit my neck heavily, making me hold my breath involuntarily. I only heard a light chuckle from the man, then his rough palm started to slide up my thigh. When it reached my hip bone, I could distinctly feel the man make a slight clicking sound. I was lying on my side, which would probably not be convenient for Dustin's next move. Thinking this, I pretended to mumble something, then turned over and lay flat on the bed. The gauze-like fabric of the pajamas was particularly thin, so as I turned over, the fabric in front of my chest slipped down. This situation was unexpected for me, but since I was pretending to be asleep, I awkwardly pulled the blanket over. Anyway, people move the blanket when they sleep because they're cold, so I didn't think my actions were too abrupt. Perhaps my movement startled Dustin, as he held his breath and stopped his actions. This situation didn't last long. Seeing that I didn't move, he began to act freely again. I felt a chill on my body, as the blanket had already fallen to the floor. Even with my eyes closed, I could sense the man's movements. As the final creaking sound disappeared, Dustin closed the door and left the room. Seeing the man leave, I opened my eyes first and cautiously looked around. Seeing no one, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. I knew the first step was a success. Wanting to leave this home, merely plotting against Dustin was far from enough. I also needed the help of my mentally ill boyfriend, Alexis Marson. In my past life, these two fought to possess me and were willing to coexist peacefully. This life, I wanted to see them fight to the death, hating each other upon first sight, wanting to kill each other. As for my mother, Kelly Patton, pattern, I hated her. No matter how I begged her in my past life to let me leave home, she would always say one thing: just bear with it, Dustin likes you, and I can't do anything about it. So, in this life, I will not save her. I want to witness her being strangled to death by Dustin. The next morning, Dustin had prepared breakfast early. When my mother was around, he always put on a gentle and kind appearance. I didn't understand why a man cooking was something to be touched by, especially when we had a maid at home. Dustin was just bringing up the food made by the maid. But obviously, this method of his was very effective with my mother. As soon as my mother saw me, she happily pulled me to sit between her and Dustin. If this had happened in an ordinary family, it would have been fine. But this woman in front of me, knowing full well that Dustin had ill intentions towards me, always pushed me towards the men. I sat silently between the two, suddenly remembering a conversation I had with my mother before she got married. Mom, Dustin has a problem. He's not as good as you think. He always says some inexplicable things to me. At that time, I didn't know that the world I was in was a novel, nor did I know about these dirty things. I was just a poor little girl begging my mother for protection. I looked at my mother with eyes full of helplessness and fear. Even now, I still remember Kelly's expression at that time. She understood the implication in my words, and her expression suddenly turned angry. She slapped me hard and looked at me as if I was something disgusting. She scolded, "You slut." Then, she seemed to remember something, and her expression returned to calm. She gently took my hand, rubbed my swollen cheek, and said to me as if teaching a disobedient child, "Hillary, you have to be good. You know, Dustin likes you." After saying that, Kelly's expression became somewhat unnatural, and she spoke faster. "You know, Mom likes Dustin. Even if it's for me, can you bear with it?" Her few words completely killed the hope in my heart. "Hillary, why aren't you eating?" The mother's voice, with a hint of reproach, came from beside me. I snapped out of my thoughts, looked at the eggs in the bowl, and forced a sweet smile towards Dustin. Dustin fell for it, licked his lips, and then placed his hand on my leg. While making these moves, Dustin didn't shy away from my mother. I could clearly see from the corner of my eye that my mother witnessed this scene, but she just turned her head, pretended not to see, and affectionately served Dustin some food. "It's okay," I told myself in my heart. What little affection I had left for her was completely gone. I have 3 months left until I come of age. In these 3 months, I not only have to get rid of them, but also inherit my father's estate and live the life I want. And the one who can wield the butcher's knife is my mentally ill boyfriend, Alexis Marson. The reason I am with Alexis is very simple. We are both superficial and shallow, just attracted to looks. If I didn't know what would happen next, I would really think Alexis was an innocent and cute high school boy. It's very easy to provoke jealousy between two men, just show a bit of weakness at the right time, and make some sacrifices. Compared to giving my virginity to an ordinary greasy old man, I prefer the inexperienced and handsome high school boy. "Hillary." When I walked into the classroom, Alexis called out my name with a smile on his face. The surrounding classmates immediately started making a fuss upon hearing it. In the past, I might have blushed, lowered my head, and quietly complained about Alexis. But today, things were different. I boldly accepted the classmates' teasing, then walked to my seat, lifted Alexis's face, and kissed him. The refreshing smell of soap beans came towards me, much better than that disgusting smell of cooking fumes. The reason why I kissed Alexis was to show off in front of the man outside. That man was Dustin Walpole, of course. In the morning, when he drove me to school, I deliberately left my books in his car. Naturally, he followed me and witnessed this scene. Even if Alexis had dark thoughts in his heart, he was just a high school student who couldn't handle this kind of tease. Unconsciously, he hugged my waist and made me sit on his lap. Feeling the warmth of his hands below, I blushed genuinely, making Dustin outside turn red with jealousy. The man stared straight at Alexis as he ambiguously licked the silver thread at the corner of my mouth. When everything calmed down, Dustin finally knocked on the door and asked a classmate to call my name. When I took the book, I saw the blue veins popping up on Dustin's hand. Pretending not to notice, I thanked him and returned to the classroom. In the moment I turned around, tears fell from my eyes, pretending to be a bullied expression. During school hours, Alexis seemed normal, but at night, his suppressed alter ego would appear, helping him eliminate everything he disliked. Now, what I needed to do was to make Alexis hate Dustin. When the hatred reached a certain level, he would naturally kill Dustin. Alexis saw my tears, and he was momentarily stunned. He gently hugged me with a hint of distress and softly asked me what was wrong. Of course, I couldn't just tell him everything all at once. That would take away the fun. This kind of thing, he had to discover bit by bit on his own for it to truly matter to him. Feeling wronged, I shook my head and buried my face in Alexis's arms, as if needing protection. Although Alexis was a psychopath, his family's influence was immense. What I was hiding was simply not a problem for him. During class break, while pretending to rest my head on the table, I saw Alexis holding a piece of paper tightly clenched in his hand. I understood the contents of the paper, which were nothing more than Dustin's reprimanding words towards me. Although Alexis now clenched his fists, looking like he was concerned for me, I knew that it was just his possessiveness at play. In a past life, after Alexis and Dustin reached an agreement, he had told me, "Since I can't have your virginity, nor have you completely, I can only appear in your life in this way in the future." From From this, one could see a man's persistence towards a woman's virginity. Therefore, I was determined to truly give my virginity to Alexis. I wanted to deepen Alexis's possessiveness towards me, strengthen his love for me, and make him willingly remove all obstacles for me. After making up my mind, I drowsily opened my eyes and leaned softly against Alexis's chest. I looked up at Alexis's peach blossom eyes, my fingers restlessly tugging at his clothes, and with a hook in my eyes, I asked, "Alexis, can I come to your house?" After I spoke, I could feel Alexis's whole body stiffen, but in just a few seconds, Alexis chuckled softly. He reached out and pinched my chin, forcing me to tilt my head up. The pain from my chin made me too weak to think about anything else, tears almost blurring my vision. I couldn't see Alexis's expression, but I knew he was staring at me. After some time passed, Alexis gently rubbed my chin and lovingly embraced me. His voice was clear and filled with obvious joy. Of course, when Alexis said these two words, I lowered my eyes, silently sighing in relief. Just now, Alexis's gaze was too sharp. Even in my tearful state, I could always feel his eyes on me, like sharp blades, digging into my heart. Sitting on the sofa in Alexis's room, I found that I was still a bit panicky inside. I thought that as the female lead in an erotic novel, these things should come naturally to me. I believed I could easily manipulate two men in the palm of my hand, but when it actually happened to me, I also felt some regret, regretting why I had to go through all this. Listening to the sound of water dripping in the bathroom, I sat slumped on the sofa, closed my eyes, and waited quietly. All the fearful expressions on my face disappeared the moment Alexis appeared. I combed my hair familiarly and then pounced with a smile. According to my expectations, Alexis should have smiled and lifted me up at this moment, but after waiting for a long time, I didn't get Alexis's embrace and his warm palm. The response to my embrace was just a cold smile with unclear intentions. This strange smile made me raise my head in surprise. At this moment, his gentle peach blossom eyes were filled with suppressed desire and anger. Feeling a bit scared by his gaze, I tried to move back, but Alexis grabbed my wrist. The boy sneered and played with my wrist bone. "Good girl, why run? Haven't you figured out who I am?" The playful tone in his voice and the bloodthirsty look in his eyes made it clear to me that this person was Alexis's alter ego. It was only 3 o'clock in the afternoon. How could Alexis's alter ego suddenly appear? The book clearly stated that Alexis's alter ego only appeared at night. Perhaps I was too serious. I didn't even notice that Alexis's hand was already on my face, intending to smooth out the wrinkles between my eyebrows. The gentle touch made me temporarily forget to stay away. When I came to my senses, I used my hand to block Alexis's leaning body. Perhaps Alexis sensed my thoughts. He didn't wait and shoved me. He pulled my body over, embraced me, and ruthlessly bit my neck. Before the smell of blood emerged, Alexis turned the bite into a light kiss. As he lightly pecked the skin on my neck, he whispered in a voice that only the two of us could hear, "Be good, don't move, or I'll strangle you." With that, he held me in his arms and fell asleep. Nothing happened between us, but when Alexis woke up, he cuddled against my neck as if being coquettish. Even though he had no memory of the night before, seeing the love bite on my neck, Alexis still believed that we had a sexual relationship last night. His voice was unusually affectionate as he touched my face and gently called me Hillary. Looking into his peach blossom eyes, I couldn't help but think of Alexis's alter ego. I didn't understand what he meant. He was completely different from what the book described. My intuition told me that if I didn't handle him, my plan would definitely be disrupted. Looking at Alexis, who was still sleepy beside me, I felt somewhat fortunate. The school suddenly changed its system, and students switched from being day students to boarding students, only being able to go home on weekends. The school I attended was the #1 in prestigious schools, not a place where you could attend just because you were wealthy or powerful. So, my kind mother and stepfather had no right to stop me. Actually, I don't understand why. Even though I was in a school where only the elite could attend, how could I possibly be a student with poor study? But after thinking for a long time, I still couldn't figure out the logic behind it. Perhaps, for the author who created me, this was also considered a cute point. As time at school increased, the fear that had haunted me since my rebirth gradually subsided. Except for these few people, everyone else in this book was normal. I lived a normal life at school, at least not as cautiously as at home. The only thing that frustrated me was that Alexis's alter ego seemed to be hiding. No matter how much I tried to provoke him at night, he never showed up. Aside from everything else, Alexis was indeed a good boyfriend. Due to his misunderstanding of our relationship, he tended to spoil me rotten. Every time before he wanted to be intimate with me, he would inexplicably fall asleep. It was as if he had no memory of the night, waking up each time thinking we had been intimate.